and we'll just wait. Hi everyone, and welcome to this session of Adobe Apps for Education Live. Today we are going to be looking at the topic of creating novel covers using Photoshop elements. So in our first session, we're going to make a cover, and in our second session, we're going to make an even better cover. And our presenter today is an amazing AEL, Adobe Education Leader, Linda Dixon in Nebraska. And I guess she's one of the people, when I think of Photoshop elements, Linda's face always pops up as the person who knows how to do stuff. So thank you very much, Linda, for joining us. I'll pop Linda's edX profile in the chat in just a minute. But if you have any questions during this session, please ask them up in the top pod, and then we will answer those at the end of the session, because we don't have a lot of time, as you know. So any questions in the top. And Linda, are you there? And would you like to share your screen?
I am here. Can you see my screen?
Wonderful. Over to you. Absolutely beautifully. Thank you. I will see you later.
Hey, thank you, Pip. And for those of you that didn't realize it, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning for Pip, and she has school in a few hours. So bless you, Pip, for helping to support these webinars. So today we are going to make a novel cover with Photoshop Elements, and you can see my email address there. If you have questions later on, I'm glad to answer. Part of the motivation for Photoshop Elements and Premiere Elements to be in everyone's radar right now is because of President Obama's Connect Ed initiative. And Adobe, along with many other companies, have joined in with the President's Connect Ed initiative, donating lots of technology resources for kids in the classroom. And these are the software applications that Adobe has committed to schools that apply for the Connect Ed grant. So Photoshop Elements and Premiere Elements, 30 licenses of each, along with some licenses for the other applications you see here, can be donated to your Title I schools. So there is more information, of course, off of the Adobe Ed Exchange. And if you just do a /connected after the edX homepage, and they are still accepting applications. So today we're going to have students design a cover for a favorite book. And well, why would we do this? Well, for one thing, it's a very fun, creative activity, but it also meets standards from the Common Core. I'm in the English language, the reading literature category. Really from grades 6 and up, there's lots of emphasis on determining themes, central ideas from reading, and analyzing characters. So students would select their book, determine main themes, central ideas, or perhaps a main character, and then use imagery to design their new book cover. And then they would explain why they chose that theme, character, the images that they used. The skills we're going to learn today, we're going to learn to manage layers and layer objects. We're going to use the crop tool, and we're going to learn how you can constrain that crop tool just to the exact size and resolution you want. We're going to add and format text. We're going to see how to make a photo fill text by using a clipping mask. And then we're also going to create an image with partial color using layers and layer masks. So I'm going to switch now over to Photoshop Elements. When you first launch it, this is the welcome screen, and we're going to go directly into the photo editor this morning. Across the top of the photo editor, you do have 4 tabs: quick, guided. Those are for when you, the quick is when you just want to spend like 10 seconds or less on a picture, very limited tools. Guided helps you through certain effects on photos. It's a fun place to spend some time, but I'm guessing with your students, you're going to want to really teach them how some of these tools work. So we're going to stay in the expert mode. Down the side are the tools that we want to use. Now, if any of you have some experience at all with Photoshop, the Pro version, which is the Creative Cloud version now, you'll see a lot of similarities in the tools. If you've never spent any time in Photoshop Elements or Photoshop Creative Cloud, you're going to see that it's very intuitive and that this product is a great stepping stone into the professional version of Photoshop. Let's start by opening an image. We're going to jump right out and learn about layers. So the panels down the side are controlled, by the icons down at the bottom of the screen. And so we've got the layers panel up at the moment, and there are other panels we're going to use later. Now I'm going to size this so that it fills the window, and I'm just going to use a keyboard shortcut, which would be Command on the Mac or Control on Windows with the 0 key. And that makes it fill the screen as large as it can and still fit in the window. So this picture looks, pretty straightforward. A little wooden guy running down the beach. But if we look at that layers panel, it's really more complex than you think. Notice down the left side of that panel, there's a little eye icon, and some of these eyes have red slashes through them. The ones with the red slashes indicate that those layers are hidden right now. So if I want to show those layers, I simply click on the little eye icon with the red slash, and I can make each of these layers visible. So you can see there's a lot more to this picture than originally we could see at first glance. Now the way that layers work is there's an object on each layer, and the layers at the bottom most of the panel are the things that are farthest away from us in the picture. As you get closer to the top of the layers panel, those objects get closer to you. So now why does that matter? Well, let's say I hide this vest. Okay. Now, if I'm this guy running down the beach and I don't have that vest on, I probably want to have my shirt on the outside of my pants so I don't look like a dork. So, well, we can do that. And so I'm going to click on the shirt layer to select it, and I'm going to click and hold and drag that above the pants layer. And so we get to decide what is closer to us in the picture and what things are further away by the order that we arrange the layers. Now, what else can we do? Each object that's on a layer, well, this is going to sound really logical, but each object on a layer is called a layer object. And each layer object has its own properties. So I can affect just the object on this layer because that is the only layer selected right now. And let's look at another property. Up at the top of that layers panel, you see opacity. And the opacity says 100% right now. But if I drag it a little bit to the left and release, you'll see we've got see-through clothing. Now don't tell anyone that this is like an X-rated webinar, but when we can add transparency to layer objects, it really opens a whole world of creativity. Things can show through other things. The layers can kind of blend together, and it really opens a whole world of creativity. And once you understand layers, then you can start combining images. So I'm going to open another image, and let's see how we can start to put two images together. Okay, now this is a little image with some hats. Now, depending how your images first open, Photoshop Elements has the capability of presenting images in tabs, kind of like your internet browser, or having them float on the screen. In this current version of Photoshop Elements, and I'm using version 13 today, at the bottom of the screen there's a layout button. And that layout button lets us decide how we display those. So a default view for you might be that they're stuck in tabs that I can switch back and forth like an internet browser. But for this activity, we definitely want them to float. That way I can drag them, I can see them side by side. Notice that this hats image just has one layer. So what happened to all the other layers? Well, they belong to the start picture or the beach picture. So when I click on it to make it current, there's the layers. I'm going to go back to the hats, click on it, and in order to put those hats over in the beach picture, one easy way is to just click right on the layer, that one and only layer in the layers panel, and just drag that layer, and the ghost follows me, and I'm just going to drop it right on the image. And making sure I have the move tool in the tool panel, I can move that around and try on the different hats. When I find one I like, I can use an eraser tool to erase the other two. Now, when I click the eraser, let's talk about how we can manage our tools. This eraser tool has multiple erasers available. The one that's selected right now is a magic eraser. Well, we're going to use that in the webinar later this afternoon or in just a few hours. The regular eraser is the one I want. We can control the size and the type of brush. All the options for controlling tools are down at the bottom of the window. If you have a version of Photoshop Elements that's like, I think version 9 or before, these options are in a bar at the top. Anyway, we can take our eraser tool and I can size it down here at the bottom, or let's learn a little trick. Any kind of a tool that has a size, like a brush or an eraser, you can size it by tapping the square bracket keys on your keyboard. So I'm tapping the left square bracket right next to the P key and making that smaller, or I can make it bigger with the right square bracket. And then I simply erase the hats that I don't want. And it's only affecting the hats layer because the hats layer is the only layer that's selected in the layers panel. So another reason to use layers is so that you can add things to a picture without destroying the original picture. So I'm going to add a new layer. Look up at the top of the layers panel. There's a little square icon with a turn back corner, and that allows me to make a new layer. Now, when you're doing a multiple layer project, always, always, always name your layers appropriately. So I'm going to double click on this name. You have to make sure it's highlighted blue, and I'm going to call it birds. And we're going to draw some birds up in the sky. I'm not going to take a lot of time with this because I want to get to our book cover, but I'm grabbing the brush tool and I'm going to control that brush. I think I want more of a hard-edged brush that's very small. And black color is just fine. That's the default color in my foreground color right now. So I'm just going to come up here. I might even take that a little bit smaller brush, and I'll just kind of draw some birds up in the sky. I don't want to take a lot of time with this. These birds, a couple of them have broken wings, but that's all right. And it's starting to look like a Hitchcock movie. But anyway, so I can decide, well, do I like those birds? Well, I've got a bird or two that I don't really like, so I can just erase. And so just like before with the hats, we're only erasing on the layer that is selected. So the great thing about having multiple layers and adding things to the picture this way is I haven't actually changed anything from the original picture. And those birds live on a layer all by themselves. So do I like them? I don't know. Let's turn them off. Let's hide them. Do I like it without? Do I like it with? Do I like it without? Well, if I decide I don't really like them, I can either keep it hidden, or I can go up to the trash can in the layers panel and actually delete that layer. So that's a little background about managing layers, and we're going to need to know that for the next couple of projects. So I'm going to go ahead and close these without saving. Let's get on to our book cover. I'm going to start with an image. Now you can guess. The favorite book that we're going to work with is Hunger Games. So this student decides that she wants to be the main character in the Hunger Games. Now, looking at the bottom of this image window, you can see this is a very large image directly from the camera. It's 34 inches by 45 inches at 72 dots per inch. That's way too big. We don't need to work with an image that big. So we're going to use the crop tool, which is down in the modify category of tools. And the first time you use this crop tool, it will probably come up with the default that says no restriction. And that means you could size your crop area any size you want. But I'm going to use a constraint on the tool that's going to mean 8 by 10. No matter where I drag these corners, the resulting size is going to be 8 by 10. Now, you can also constrain the resolution. If I'm only going to use this on screen, I might keep it at 72. But if I decide I want to print it later, I was probably going to want a higher resolution, especially laser printing would be 300. So my crop tool now knows that no matter what I select, it's going to end up being 8 by 10 with 300 dots per inch. So I'm going to make a size, and see, I don't really want those blue shorts in the picture, so I'm going to try to retain a really good image of her, the bow and arrow, without the blue shorts. And I think that will work pretty well. So to finish the crop, you either click on the green check mark that comes up, and of course this red circle with the slash means cancel, I don't want to do it. Or if you don't want to be clicking on green check marks, you can press return or enter on your keyboard. Okay, so this is our crop. This is going to be our book cover. But we're going to add text. We're going to do some other things to make it special. So first of all, let's talk about the text. I'm grabbing the type tool. There's lots of different type tools, but you'll mostly be using the horizontal type tool. That's just your default type tool. In these options, you can decide on the font you want to use. Now, I'm pretty sure I want to use this Rockwell Bold Italic, but I'm going to show you some tricks for choosing fonts here in just a minute. And I'm going to start with a pretty big size. My foreground color is black, so it's going to do black text right out of the chute here. It's kind of hard to see against that background, so just for the sake of formatting, let's hide the background layer here for a minute. Okay, so here's my Hunger Games text. Now, you know, your computers have just tons and tons of fonts, and you might see yourself cycling through these and spending days and days trying to figure out what font you want. But let me show you a little trick. If you highlight all the words that you want to change, make sure they're highlighted, and then come down here and highlight the font name, highlighted in blue, then you can use the up and down keys right on your keyboard or your computer. So I'm tapping up arrow, and it's cycling through all those fonts in the list, so you can actually see them very quickly on your project. I better get back to that Rockwell Bold Italic, so we don't spend too much time doing that. You know, you can spend hours choosing fonts. And I think I'm going to go a little bit bigger. So you can do the same thing with the size. You can highlight that number down in the options. And I'm tapping my up arrow a bit. And I'm going to click confirm. Okay, now besides sizing that way, I can also stretch this. Now, you have to be careful. It can distort it. But I'm going to hover over this little selection handle till my arrow gets a double-headed arrow on it. And I'm going to stretch that down. I want it to fill a lot of the page. For what we're doing, you need a really fat font. So we're going to fill this text with a picture. So you want the letters to be really, really fat. Okay, I'm going to show that background again and see where we are. What we're going to do is we're going to make a photo fill up those letters. And we can't do it with the background layer itself, but we can do it with a duplicate of the background layer. So I just do a right click on that background layer, say duplicate layer, and background copy is fine for the name. Now, in order to do this, making it fill the text, we have to put this layer above the text layer. Now don't worry, it's going to hide it just for a minute. You don't see the text. And what this technique is called, it's making a clipping mask. And it means that a layer will assume the shape of whatever object or text is in the layer directly below it. So in the layer menu, we say create clipping mask. Now, how do you know we did it? Well, let me hide the background again, and you'll see. This copy of the background layer just assumed the shape of the text. And we can get fancier with it. Now, let me go ahead and select that text layer. I just clicked here in the Layers panel on the T. And let's bring up Effects. I clicked the icon at the bottom of the screen, so the Effects panels came up. There's 3 tabs at the top, and we want Styles. In the Styles, there are different categories of styles, and I'm going to stick with the bevels right now. But we can make that, let me kind of zoom into this a little bit more. I'm using keyboard shortcuts to zoom in. Your Command or Control key with the plus allows you to zoom in, and minus zooms out. So you can see that these little bevels can make that text pop off the page. So I'm just going to choose, I think just a simple emboss for right now. Let's go back to the layers and let's show our background again. Now you're going to see it's popping right off of the image. It doesn't pop quite enough for me. We can go to the text layer and notice farthest to the right, it has a little FX. If you click on the FX, it allows you to modify your special effects. So we get all these extra controls. I'm thinking this might look great with a glow around it. It might help it pop a little more. So I'm clicking to turn on glow, and maybe a bit of an outer glow is going to help. So let's going to bring that glow up in size a little bit, and you'll see now we can see that popping off just a bit more. Okay, I'm going to put this size back so it fits in the window, Command or Control 0, and here's where we are so far. Now this might be even a little more dramatic if we added maybe black and white to most of the picture. So let's see how to create this background so that it only has partial color. And we're going to do that by adding a special kind of layer. This layer, created with the circle that's colored half black and half white, is for adjustment layers. Now, the adjustment layers have several categories. Now, a pro with photography would always use an adjustment layer to do photo corrections like brightness and contrast, or working with levels for color correction, hue, saturation, and all that, because doing adjustment layers don't harm the original image at all. You put all your corrections in a layer. Now, this adjustment layer that we're going to add is the one for hue, saturation. And whenever you create a new layer, whether it's an adjustment layer or a regular layer, it will always appear above whatever layer you had selected. So my background layer was the selected layer, which is what I wanted, and the new layer comes up right above it. Adjustment layers only affect layers below it. So I'm not going to be affecting anything above it, only the background layer below it. And what we'll do with this adjustment is we're going to slide this saturation all the way to the left. Do you see what happened in our cover? We just took the color out. And I think I'm going to even make it a little lighter so that those letters pop right off the page. And then I'll close that panel with the little close box. Now, adjustment layers, they have kind of 2 pieces. The first piece on the left allows us to reopen the controls if we change our mind. So I could double click on that, change anything in the controls. The second piece on the right is called a layer mask. And a layer mask masks everything below it. But we can make things show through the mask, or I can hide part of the mask. And the tool that you use for hiding the mask is actually a paintbrush. So with the paintbrush, depending what color I paint, we're going to hide or show the mask. Black hides the mask, white reveals the mask. You can use shades of gray in between if you want transparency, but we're going to just stick with black color for now. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit on our student. And I'm going to size my brush. I'm tapping my right square bracket to make my brush a little bigger. And you'll see when we paint with black, hold it. Let me just select another layer and then come back to this layer. Okay. Hold it. I got white going there instead of black. Let me switch that. Not sure how that happened, but you need black as your current color. And I'm going to use a little bit smaller brush and just kind of outline. I don't want to spend huge amounts of time, so I'm not going to be very careful. I'll show you how to fix your boo-boos. And I'm just going to go around the outside with this a little bit smaller brush. And then when I get most of the outside done, I use a bigger brush to fill in the middle. It's not great that she wore a gray shirt for this. The colored shirt might have been a little bit better, but this will work. Okay, now I'm going to size my brush bigger so we can go a lot faster. Now keep your eye on what's happening over in that adjustment layer on the mask. Do you see that it's tracking the parts of the layer, that layer mask that I'm hiding? So I'm hiding the mask in this area, which is allowing the color from the background to show through. Need a little bit smaller there. Okay, I'm going to go to the bow and make a much smaller brush, and we'll just go over parts of this bow to make it pop. Again, I'm going fast, so don't be critical. I'm not being very careful. And I'm going to quickly do this part. Okay, so I definitely made some boo-boos, but how do I fix them? Remember, it's the white. So I'm going to swap the foreground and the background with this tiny double-headed curved arrow. Now I've got a white brush and I can clean up a little bit of the parts that were the worst. But again, I don't want to spend your time on that. Okay, let's take a look. Here's our new book cover. We should probably put the author's name on. I'm getting the text tool. We'll need a little bit smaller size. And just click that. Oops. Cancel. Let's get that down below in a new. Hold it. I think I'm going to put that layer up here. Going to help a little. In fact, let me just start that one again. Okay, now when I get this type layer going, it's going to go right at the top. And of course, that's going to be too big, so I'm using that trick. I highlighted the type, and I'm using my down arrow key, tap, 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 to size. Confirm that, and you can add an effect if you like. The bevels that we used before can be added here as well. So here's our cover. And you'd save it. I'm going to do a save as, put it on my desktop as my Hunger Games cover. And this is where we're going to start this afternoon, or just in a few hours for the second webinar. So hope that gives you some ideas, and I guess Pip will have the polls and the questions.
Hi, Linda. Yes, thank you so much. That was that's such a great activity for all sorts of subject areas. I really enjoyed that, and as always, your run through makes it look so wonderfully easy and doable for all sorts of users. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you very much. I don't think, hang on, Carol Buchanan is just starting to type something now, but other than that, I don't think we have any questions. Hang on just a second to see how Carol. So while Carol's typing, we will be back here this afternoon at 3 p.m. for that second session. So hopefully you'll all be able to join us. And that's 3 p.m. PDT. If you could just fill out the form, that'd be great. I better fill it out. And okay, everyone was able to see some good ideas for that. I think it would be good in English, it would be great in HSIE or the humanities subjects, as well as great for some pure ICT skills for students. So I think we are, yes, same recording. So the link will be back on our edX page. On where is it? Oh dear, brain not working. It will be on the attendees page as well as this edX activity. So thank you. Okay, no worries. Thanks, Carol. So thank you for that input. But I'm sure you can do some good stuff and change it around if you were to do them yourself as well. So thanks, everyone, and we will see you in a few hours. So I'm going to boot you all out of the room. So thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Thank you. Hey, Linda, thank you. That was wonderful.
You're welcome,
Oh, hang
Pip.
on.
Go to bed.